Hello everybody and welcome to Social DIY. Today we're going to give you a brief little snippet on how to interview, or more importantly, how to interview for a job really well. Um, I'm not sure exactly where I came up with this, but ever since I was young, I've had the innate ability to interview for jobs and things like that very, very well. It's a matter of being able to make a good impression immediately to help ensure that you get a job. In fact, I have never been turned down for work from, as a result of an interview. When it comes to doing an interview, there are a few things you need to keep in mind. One is confidence. Understand that the most confident salesman is the one who produces the most results. Now, you may not be getting into sales. However, that doesn't change the fact that while you are in an interview, you are selling yourself. You are trying to sell what you are capable of doing to an employer. So you must have some sense of confidence, even if you don't have a lot of experience. Have the ability to have confidence in what you do know and what you are willing to bring to the table for the employer, and two, understand that there are certain things that you can do to, in a sense, manipulate the things that you do know into seeming a little bit better. Reason why, this isn't to say that you need to be lying to your employer or your potential employer, but remember that the information that they give you is going to be a little bit sugar coated as well. So you need to be able to sell yourself to them in order to produce a result, and ultimately that's the goal, to produce a result. If you indicate that you're capable of doing something that you do have a foundation in doing, then you can easily surmise that you can learn how to do it the way the company wants that done, and there won't be any issues of feelings of deceit or misconception. And that's just something that goes along with having any kind of experience in any kind of profession. You always have to understand that if you have even the smallest base of information on something, then you can learn how to advance that or evolve that for the specific requirements of whoever you're working for, or whatever the job requires. Um, Secondly, this is something that not a lot of people really seem to completely understand or really even consider, and that is know a little bit about your potential employer. When you are, especially if it's someone who is not heavily well known, maybe they're not a major corporation or major franchise, find out what exactly is it that they do. Maybe get a little bit of how they do it, especially if there's any way of finding out what they do, how they do it, why they do it a certain way. And bring that to the interview. Not to say bring a whole list of things that they do, but keep that in mind. Because a good interviewer, somebody who is interviewing you to see if you're acceptable for a job, one of the things that's on their mind, whether they can see that or not, is how exactly are you going to be valuable to the company? Why should they hire you? Especially in a market like what we have here in the 2012 era, where you could have 50 people applying for the same job and they've only got one or two openings. They want to find out who really is the best out of all this, because they've got a huge pool of people to work with. So if you know a little bit about the company, what they expect, the things that they want from their employees, and you can bring that information and interpret that in a way that helps them decide on you, then that's going to be very beneficial. Find out what they make, what they produce, why they produce it, what other services do they offer, and if possible, even certain platforms that they use to make that happen. Reason being, if you do have an honest opinion about the ability to either make something work really well, or even the slightest experience in how to do something like that so you can integrate very quickly or make things more efficient, any employer is going to want to grab onto that, because especially now they're looking for efficiency. Efficiency produces the greatest cost effectiveness, and that is very important to companies, especially now. There's not a lot of money and resources to just throw around. So keep that in mind. Do a little research, and you don't have to, read a whole book on it. Go online. The internet's a great tool, just like getting this little snippet of video. It's a great tool to be able to research what they do, how they work things, and find out. There's a lot of places. Almost every company out there has some kind of comment page, or somebody who's either claiming how great they are, or even how much they hate them. Find out why certain people have left that work. You go to a place like recently I got hired on at Sears. What you want to do is, now I know what Sears does primarily, but I don't know all the little intricacies. So what do? I go online, find out, well, what do you do? What services do you now offer? What are you really a part of? And I want to find out from people who've worked for you or currently do, why are you a good employer and why would you be a bad employer? Because at that point you can make the decision to say, well, this person might not be a good person to work for, may not be a good company to work for because of, a whole lot of this, and this, and it's been substantiated or ratified by a lot of other people. If you find a company, and you'll find this especially in sales, companies that are really marketing companies, they will specifically try to find people who are susceptible to being lied to. People don't have experience in the workforce because they can screw with them and hurt them and do fucked up things to them. You want to be able to find that, because people like that, the only place you're going to find good feedback about them is going to be on their site, and that's not really a good place to get that kind of feedback. You want to go to independent sources. Also, keep in mind that your level of confidence is going to really show up if they do something like what a lot of employers are starting to do now, especially in things that have to do with sales or information, which is role playing. Be prepared to do a little role playing in your interview. Which means, especially if you're getting into sales, have a couple ideas of products in your mind and understand, what kind of things does your potential employer want? Are they going to be big on, product sales, or are they big on protection plans, warranties, credit applications? Because if they're more interested in credit plans, warranties, and applications, then you don't have to focus so much of your information on what kind of products they have. You can focus it on the services they provide to supplement that product. When it comes to even, I guess what you would consider regular sales, which is non-commission based, things where you're more of a sales associate, either in clothes, retail, or even food, one of the biggest things that an employer wants to know is, are you capable of upselling? Upselling is a process by which somebody might order some food, and upselling that food would be, would you like to supersize that? That's all it takes. Is simply say, would you like to supersize that? You have immediately put yourself in a position to upsell to them, giving them an option to get a little bit more by paying a little bit more. Each one of the companies are going to look at that and say, oh, well, we, by providing a little bit more, we might be losing a little bit more material, but we're actually gaining a profit off of that additional loss of material. And that's what they want. So that upselling process, or would you like cinnamon twist with that, or did you say, or if they say, oh, I want a sandwich, a drink, and some chips, and you can recount the order for them and say, okay, so you wanted this sandwich, a large drink, and a dessert. At that point, you'd be amazed how many people say, oh yeah, that's what I want. They're not even going to consider anything else, and you've just upsold them a regular drink for a large drink. And it comes up on the receipt, they'll say, oh no, I remember the large, no big deal. If they want to change it later on, they can, but most people won't. And even though that seems like it's just a slight little bit of shystiness involved in your profession, that can really be the difference between you getting a job and keeping a job as opposed to somebody else. And in this day and age, you have to be able to keep kind of an even keel between your sense of social morality and your sense of social competitiveness. Is it more important for you to worry about, somebody paying 20 cents more for something that they may or may not have wanted, or getting a job that pays your bills? So keep these things into account. You want to make sure that, number one, you have confidence in your interview. Two, you know a little bit about who this potential employer is and what they might be looking for from you. Three, be ready to role play that a little bit so that you can give a clear indication that you are confident in what you're trying to get here. And four, be willing to upsell in any capacity, whether it be commission sales, non-commission sales, retail, food service, anything. Just about every job, including our professional jobs, are present some kind of sales, either of yourself, of your service, of your company's service, or of the work that you do. Even in construction, you have to be willing to have a little bit of knowledge of what's going on and understand that your job could at any moment imply that sense of being a representative for the company, and your company's primary goal is to make profit, which means sales of some kind. So with that, I hope this has been helpful. If you like the channel, subscribe to it. I will also put a link to my Twitter and Facebook in the show notes. So there's nothing else. If you have any responses, requests, critiques, let me know. If you have something you want me to talk about or a question, just leave it in a comment or send it to me on Twitter or Facebook, and I will try to get a video response out to you within a couple of days. All right, thanks.